It's me, Captain Blueberry Buckaroo, aka Lancer737, or in this case, today, it's going to be Black Knight Leader, or BK77-7, because we're going to be checking out some really cool Star Wars stuff. I'm going to be a little bit late to the party, but I'm going to be checking out some stuff for the cosmetic options that you can pick in the Star Wars Squadrons game. Specifically, I'm going to go over the Imperial stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that a lot of people have missed, and or just Easter eggs that may or may not be, references, but it might possibly be, and it's just cool to talk about really cool squadrons other than the 181st. I'm going to be using Bombastic's video, so don't forget to check his channel out. The reason I'm doing that is I still have not found pictures of all the stuff that have been revealed. And heck, for all I know, maybe there's even more stuff now. I just haven't seen it. But I'm just going to go over his video. I am not going to use the audio though, but it is his video. It's just I'm going to add things from my perspective that may or may not be Easter eggs that they intended that no one has talked about. So let's go. We're going to go for the Imperial stuff. And let's see, I think it starts here. He was missing some Rebel stuff too, so I guess it's a good thing to skip over it. Okay, Imperial emotes, not exactly something I'm gonna be crazy about. I mean, it's just an emote. Although the suit itself looks kind of cool. Okay, well, maybe I was saying a joke there. So we're gonna fast forward a bit. Now I think those are the Imperial humans that you can pick. They all look really nicely clean cut. They look way better than the Rebels. The Rebels all look scraggly. We're gonna go back a bit. Just a little bit. I don't think he goes over them too fast, I think. Technically you can go ahead and pause them. Actually, you know what, I'll just slow it down. Because I want to have a better look at these. So, I don't think there's going to be any references to the human appearances for these characters. But yeah, they just look way better than the Rebels. Probably going to pick him. He looks the closest to me. But they all look great compared to the Rebel scum. That actually kind of looks like Rose Tico. I hope Rose Tico didn't join the Empire. That would ruin my day. And she would collide into me. She'd be like, whatever you do, you must protect your loved ones and not destroy your enemies. Even though the enemies are going to destroy your loved ones, you'll be doomed. Okay, so we're going to skip over the Rebel scum. Go straight to the awesome heroes of the Empire, of Star Wars, I should say, which is the Empire. Actually, it looks like he went over the Empire again, I think, unless it's just a glitch. Yeah, he's my favorite one out of them. Looks the most like me as well. He looks really good too. There might be more. I heard there's going to be more. He looks cool. He reminds me of Howard Saint's son. He has twins in my favorite Punisher movie. Looks excellent. I think it went back to the same guy. The blue is actually not standing out too well on my monitor, which isn't good. But yeah, they're all clean cut. Excellent Imperial pilots. I mean, there's more to being a pilot than looking slick, but yeah, and the graphics look excellent. It's a testament to the Xbox and all the other latest gen systems. We've come a long way when it comes to graphics, because I remember back when GoldenEye, that was the best you had for humans and how they looked. And then, it did not age well, but at the same time, it's such a nostalgic game, it doesn't really matter. Helmets off. Okay, here we go. We're gonna look at some of this nifty stuff. So I'm gonna just pause it here for a second. Says the cold mask, Imperial assault helmets, command respect from even the most demanding officers. Pilots wearing these cold masks fly into dangerous unknown, no matter the risk. Um, Now the helmet itself, it's a cool helmet, no doubt about it. It is a cool helmet, but I don't think it's actually as cool as the classic TIE Fighter pilot helmet that we have in 1 through 6. Now, fun fact, in 1 through 6, there actually is 3 different TIE Fighter pilot suits. A lot of people don't know that. I got this really, really rare Star Wars book. It was about the costumes. I thought it was going to have in-universe lore, which it didn't, but it went through like all that out-of-universe information for the creation. And what was really cool is, a lot of you probably already know this, they used a TIE Fighter pilot set of armor to make the AT-AT driver helmets. Well, after that movie, well, technically not even that, they used one of the suits and made it back into a TIE Fighter suit, but they liked a lot of the additional stuff that was added to it with the AT drivers equipment, so they left a lot of that stuff on as well. So you have a really cool, and they only had one of them, alternate TIE Fighter. I like to call them a TIE Interceptor pilot, because for all we know that's what they are. We have one TIE Interceptor suit of armor that did exist. You can see it in Empire Strikes Back in the garbage room when they're about to throw away C-3PO's parts into a furnace, and Chewbacca just comes in there. Look at the left. There's a suit of armor laying on a thing of garbage at the very beginning of the scene, and apparently the person also wore this suit in Return of the Jedi. Only problem is it's a blink and you'll miss moment, and they have tons of every type of Imperial Navy trooper and Imperial Navy TIE fighter pilots and stormtroopers in there. So, I mean, like, there's tons of them, so it's going to be really hard to spot them. He still has the shoulder pads that an AT-AT driver would have. I think the hoses went back in the places they were meant to go, but the back panels on the TIE fighter pilot suit, or TIE Interceptor suit, they were left bare. And they still had some of the new parts added on it, so it has glowing red panels on the back. Actually, they kind of brought it back in an excellent Star Wars game called Star Wars Uprising, and it's called the Elite TIE Fighter pilot suit. Here's a little bit of it. I've modified mine. You've probably seen this in thumbnails. Now, the purple might have gotten rid of some of the detail, and hopefully you see it. But yeah, like, here's the armored shoulder pads. It has a lot more armor on it. It has more controls on it. It just looks beefier, way cooler. And then I have this really awesome concussion rifle. That's not exactly standard, but this, my friend, this is the most elite TIE TIE Interceptor Squadron you will ever meet. Even better than 181st. It's a 154th Black Knight Squadron. That's me. Might need a little bit more modification, but they have lots of purples, cosmic purples, like you can see some stars, a little bit of glittering from, celestial bodies that are in the purple parts. Not going to completely go through the lore in it, except for they are the greatest of TIE Interceptor pilots. Even Baron Phil bows his head in respect to me, because I'm that awesome. But yeah, what they did slightly different, though, for the elite TIE Fighter pilot gear in Star Wars Uprising was the faceplate. Because the suit that this is based off of, they didn't really change the faceplate that much. In this game, though, the faceplate is very reminiscent of a Death Trooper. So it's like it has some parts of a Death Trooper on it as well, which is also freaking awesome. So I'm hoping this suit of armor makes it into the game, or at least the original that it's based off of, which, like I said, you can see in Empire Strikes Back, and it is really, really cool. But hopefully, yeah, I really want this glorious purple gear. There has to be. and it will hopefully be in reference to me. There's the Black Knight Squadron emblem right there. Gonna go back to this. What I was saying is, I just hope that suit of gear, and there has to be purple markings that you can have, so I can have Black Knight Squadron. Gotta have it. But there's other cool things I can pick, and we're gonna see them in a second as I go through all of this. But what I was saying is that this is pretty cool, but I don't think it compares to the actual original stuff. And to go over again, because I did say there's three that exist in the original trilogy that are actually in it. The one that appears in Return of the Jedi, besides the armored one that, like I said, there's literally only one that was ever made. The other one, it has you see in the first one, it's hard to see it. In A New Hope, TIE fighter pilots have a hose that connect the back plate to the rebreather. They removed that pipe and maybe changed a couple of other things in that gear for Return of the Jedi. So it's their gear has advanced in such a way they don't need so many tubing connectors. But other than that, that really cool one also exists, and that's the three of them. And I would probably pick those over this. It just doesn't really look that cool. But anyway, what it could be referencing referencing Grand Admiral Thrawn and other elite units, and I say that because it's called the Cold Mask, and go into the dangerous unknown. Want to know who goes into the dangerous unknown? I will tell you because you want to know. Special Unit Squadron. The Special Unit Squadron was one of the 6 squadrons that the Scimitar Assault Wing. The Special Unit Squadron was made up of 3 flights. The first flight was comprised of equal number of TIE starfighters and TIE RC starfighters that were deployed to gather intelligence for the assault wing using the recon craft's specialized sensors and long-range communication packages. The other 2 flights of the squadron were made up of Merrill and DAC MT/191 dropships used for the transport of ground troops during combined assaults. While not used for combat duty, the drop ships served as cargo vessels and shuttles. Now, I'm pretty sure that squadron is a Grand Admiral Thrawn unit. If not, there's still elements of it that do make me think of Grand Admiral Thrawn, because his actual whole planet also was incredibly cold. But there are specific units also, whether that is connected to Grand Admiral Thrawn or not, that do go into dangerous territories with low backup and stuff like that, relying on highly skilled pilots and or specialized ties. But it doesn't look bad. It kind of looks a little bit muffled. When I say that, I mean like the coloring. There's something about it that it looks like it's been over blurred. Okay, next we have the Founding Fortune. Family doesn't define the faceless pilots of the Galactic Empire. Prosperity comes from loyalty alone. Now, to be honest with you, there isn't really anything that comes to mind exactly with that, especially because of the colorization, but you never know. You would not believe how many squadrons exist in the lore that are elite squadrons. I'm not familiar with any that looks like a bronze character, which a bronze color that is on the suit. I it looks. I would go with the other one before. I don't like all the. It looks like it's been in scrap heat. I'm gonna be honest with you. Looks like it's rusted from being rained on, which, believe it or not, the materials in the Empire or in Star Wars in general is so durable that's likely not to happen, at least with the main factions. Maybe, some of the Hutts and other crime world units, it's possible, but definitely not the Empire, and definitely not the Rebel Alliance, unless it's something extreme like that would devastate any of the materials or items that we have in real life. It would take something extreme. I do not like this whatsoever. Um, but you know, nah, I don't think it's a reference to that. I'm not quite sure it does reference it, but if you know of a reference or what this could be referencing, please post it down below. But so far, this is my least favorite one. Okay, good old classic TIE Fighter pilot or TIE Interceptor helmet. I would have to be able to see if it has the hose or not. Imperial TIE pilot helmet, a vac sealed mask granted to all fighter pilots of the Imperial Navy. This is the face of the Imperial might. And they are not wrong. And that's just the classic helmet. I absolutely love it. Don't really need to talk more about it. It's just freaking awesome. Come on, let's do a move on. It looks great, and it looks like it's directly from the movie. Okay, we got this one. Elite Security. Accomplished pilots earn their stripes. It's uncouth to ask those pilots what exactly they achieved. Um, Looking at this, it looks like it's barely different. It looks like what sometimes people call the earpieces right here. It looks like it's been colored with a little bit of red and having internal white parts. It does not look that impressive to me. I'd probably just stick with the classic one. Now that it could reference anything, to be honest with you. It could be a reference to other squadrons that are almost as prestigious as the 181st, or it could be internal security possibly. I don't think it would be. Um, Actually, it could be a reference to this: the Emperor's Special Reserve Guard. You saved the Emperor from Zarn's treacherous hands. The Empire is safe for the moment. However, Imperial intelligence has reviewed the action from the previous missions. It appears the gunboats that attacked the Emperor's ship were part of the Emperor's own Special Reserve Guard. Lesser Prophet. And I'm getting this directly from Wikipedia, so please don't kill me. There's a lot a lot of channels that I've heard that if you read directly from Anypedia, it will make people break down and rage dramatically. Please don't kill me. um, Unfortunately, like I have a lot of lore books, a lot, but unfortunately they don't cover tons of these specific units that I absolutely love. So this is the best I can do to share them. Um, the funny thing is, I don't even recall the name of this specific unit, and I have Marika Steel, the novels really, and I have the game. Unfortunately, I probably should have replayed it, or I would, if I had replayed it, I would have remembered this unit. I just don't recall them. Um, and it goes further. The Emperor's Special Reserve Guard was a group of elite starfighter pilots that were presumably directly under the command of Emperor Palpatine himself and placed under reserve. Two of the members of this traitors, Grand Admiral Demetrius Zaran's fleet pilots of Mu Squadron, ZMU Squadron, that attacked Palpatine's C-3 passenger line Excalibur, were also members of the Emperor's Special Reserve Guard, which was discovered by Imperial intelligence. Shortly after the attack was quelled by America Steel, the discovery led to the realization that there were spies of Zarans that had penetrated even the very inner workings of the Imperial military hierarchy. This could actually be a reference to them. Um, they're not going to be quite as elite as the Imperial TIE Interceptor guard pilots, Royal Guard TIE Interceptor pilots. Yeah, that works. It's a really long name. They're pretty elite. I could see that though, because of the red markings, but it's not, as red as what their stuff probably would be. So that's probably, it could be a reference to them. Could possibly be Storm Squadron. Storm Squadron. This one, I'm more familiar with them through the X-Wing miniature game. But Storm Squadron, they were Storm Squadron was an Imperial Navy squadron with recruitment based out of the capital city of Vestine on the outer rim world of Tatooine. They exclusively flew TIE Advance, as far as I remember. Well, I guess I can read their history. Known as one of the most elite of Imperial squadrons, Storm Squadron's pilots undertook the most dangerous of missions for the Imperial Navy. Its membership later included pilots recruited from volunteer members of the Imperial Army and Imperial citizens. Storm Squadron had several TIE Advanced starfighters, which is the TIE X-1, among the ships at its disposal. The squadron's leads, TIE Advance, boosted more damaging lasers and better maneuverability over the regular squadron TIE Advanced X-1s, which had greater accuracy. Several of the fighters also had proton torpedo launchers. This could be a reference to them. I have a feeling it's kind of iffy. Probably it's likely more the other unit I mentioned before. If it was like Storm Squadron, I imagine if they had markings, it would have like lightning. Just kind of interesting. I probably would pick it over the other two with the unique looking armor pieces, but it's not bad. I'm just, again, fingers crossed. I want Black Knight Squadron. Okay, technical helmet. Design-wise, this is my least favorite out of all the ones that we have. Again, it's cool. It the physical features of it remind me an awful lot of either the conceptual art for TIE pilots and or the helmets that the stealth clone pilots had to wear when they had a stealth ship. It was specifically in an episode where Anakin and I think one other character, they were flying a very unique stealth frigate. That or it was slightly bigger than that. And they went on a stealth run. An incredibly rare ship, and they were dealing with a Confederate enemy that had experience fighting stealth ships. Their helmets were very different than other Imperial Forces helmets. So, let's see. Technical helmet, form-fitting with reinforced plating for any manner of missions, frantic or focused. That's probably not really. There's a very slim chance it could be referencing something, but I kind of doubt it. Again, the armor, it's kind of meh. I probably would pick it over other Rebel pilot helmets, but other than that, no. Okay, Hunter's Guild. Excessive force is the only answer to the rebellion and anarchy. When an enemy enters your crosshairs, you make sure nothing survives the fire. Hunter's Guild, that sounds very much like the Bounty Hunters Guild. The colorization on this thing is really wild. Despite the fact I don't like this design as much as the other two, the colors and the name of it are so cool. This might be my favorite one. Out of all the ones that we have seen, this might be my favorite one. Now, I'm pretty sure the Hunters Guild, that's semi a reference to Bounty Hunters Guild. I could be mistaken though. I mean, it shouldn't be. There could be something else it's a reference to. Really, it could really just reference any squadron, really, to be honest with you, just because how all the elite squadrons specifically are out to just flat out hunt down and destroy any enemy as viciously as they can. Again, it sounds more like it's a reference to the Bounty Hunters Guild. Okay. Special Operations. Certain missions are kept off the records for the galaxy's security. Certain pilots are not at liberty to discuss said missions. Now, it's using the armor from the last one. At least I think it is. It's just at a different angle. It has more red stripes on it, which again probably references elite squadrons that are almost as famous as the 181st, but they're not quite as famous. And as a special operations unit would be Alpha Squadron and Avenger Squadron. I don't think they would be referenced in this way, especially since Avenger Squadron, I think they have a double white bar on their TIE interceptors and then later TIE Avengers. So it's definitely probably not that one. You wouldn't think. Uh, Maybe it's a reference to the 1st Imperial Center Core Defense Squadron. Uh, let's see. Let's take a look at it. 1st Imperial Center Core Defense Squadron, better known as Skull Squadron, was an elite Predator-class fighter squadron in the Imperial Navy. The squadron was initially loyal to Darth Krait's Empire before defecting to the Emperor Ron Fell's Empire in exile during the attack of the Hidden Temple. Maybe not that one exactly. They're pretty elite. Now, the stuff involving missions that no one is allowed to discuss, that's probably going to be one of those elite squadrons that also do a lot of it reminds me, yeah, you know what, it does remind me a lot of Alpha Squadron, because a lot of the stuff involved Marek Steele, which he is an Emperor's Hand, and a lot of the stuff he had to do was completely secretive that the other pilots didn't know. So I could easily see this being a reference to him and Alpha Squadron, because technically Alpha Squadron really doesn't have color markings that we know of. They could in the future, or it could behind the scenes. They just, didn't bother to show them off. And possibly a couple others that he flew with, like Delta Squadron and Beta Squadron and Gamma Squadron. Really, any of the squadrons he could have flown with. But I could easily see this being an Emperor's Hand TIE pilot or ISB TIE pilot markings. Hopefully not the suit itself. Hopefully any pilot can have those markings in the lore. Obviously that's not going to be the case here. Not that I think. It's cool, but again, I don't like that design. The color scheme for the other one was so awesome that I actually could get over it. The rest of them, not so much. Okay. This one. It looks extremely darkened. It has a little bit of shininess, but it looks like it only has some. The way that the colorization is on it, it looks like there's no base color. And when I say that, I mean like it looks like it's either extremely shaded and highlighted without it being balanced to the point that is the balance. Okay. The Obsidian Reaper. Specialized helmet allows Imperial pilots to secure the squadron's safety while striking from the shadows between the stars. Now, the lore for this is probably the coolest one that we have out of all of these. The paint job, it's basically just the standard TIE Fighter pilot, except for on this new helmet. But there's some slight colorization differences. I swear, like I said, it looks like there's no just base. It's either high shading and high highlighting. This, ironically enough, can easily reference lots of things. I think most of all it references TIE Phantoms, but it could mean other things. For instance, it could be referencing Shadow Squadron. There's multiple different squadrons within Shadow Squadron. I think, what is it? 1 through 7 or 8. But just to give you an example, here's 5. Shadow Squadron 5. Shadow Wing. There's also a wing. Squadron and Wing, the different Shadow Squadrons are part of the Shadow Wing. Shadow Squadron 5 is chasing the last of the Rebel escorts. There are no threat, but escape is a possibility. Bruce is ready to trap the Bantha if we need to pursue through hyperspace. No, I want to be done as swiftly as possible. Gone by the time Rebel and reinforcements arrive. Um, Completely made up name I can't pronounce. Squadron 5 was an elite Imperial squadron of TIE fighter pilots that was part of the 204th Imperial Fighter Wing during the Galactic Civil War. They were sent to Kudo system to prevent and the stable. Sorry, to prevent the. I can't talk. They were sent to the Kudo system to prevent the disabled Star Destroyer from falling into enemy hands. Let's see. Let's see. We're gonna click on them. I think. Maybe not. Which is that's kind of weird that their wing would have two separate names. Well, no, I take it back. They should have a number designation like that. I guess it should really be called 204th Shadow Wing. Just it's kind of edited weird that way on the wiki itself. And the 204th Imperial Fighter Wing, the 204th, was never known for its mercy. Shadow Wing, your people called it. Quite a name. Um, that that security force one that we saw. It could be referencing them. To be all honest with you, it definitely could be referencing them. Um, Looking at the colorization of their TIE interceptors, though, I kind of doubt it. But the suit, I don't know. That previous suit, the previous one, the security one, might very well be referencing them. But it says the 204th Imperial Fighter Wing, also known as Shadow Wing, was the fighter wing of the Galactic Empire. It was formed at least 20 years before the hunt for Shadow Wing, and was one of the Empire's earliest volunteer wings. Eventually, it became one of the Empire's best fighter wings, except for Black Knight Squadron. Its primary focus was putting down rebel insurgency, like the Rebel Alliance. Shadow Wing earned its name after the Orient Massacre, I pronounced that wrong, and carried out bombardments on a couple places I can't pronounce. After the Battle of Hoth in 3 ABY, Squadron 5 of Shadow Wing fought a new independent faction led by the Imperial Admiral and an Imperial Admiral, and escaped with an Imperial class Star Destroyer. After the death of the Galactic Emperor, Shadow Wing assisted in Operation Cinder, where it carried out a massacre on multiple planets, prompting the defection of one of its officers to the Empire's enemy, the New Republic, the new form of the Rebel Alliance. Shadow Wing eventually took control of a Tabana gas mining station known as Orbital 1. Again, I'm skipping some of these names because some of the names of the planets and some of the fictional names for the characters are so weird to me. I don't want to butcher it. In order to maintain the secrecy of this new base of operations, the Fighter Wing's forces destroyed multiple communication stations around the sector. 2 TIE Interceptor Space Superiority Starfighters, or 2 TIE Fighters. I'm not sure which one it was meant to be. It's either 2 TIE Fighters or 2 Interceptors. I think it's Interceptors because I've only ever seen them use Interceptors. Squadrons of the 204th aboard the Quasi-Fire class cruiser carriers Aerie attacked the Republic's EF-76 Nebula B escort frigate Helion's Dare above Juris, and later on the Ord cluster, where they were able to destroy it. However, they were attacked at Padam Nail by the Republic's Alphabet Squadron, which led to the destruction of Orbital 1 and the death of Shadow Wing's leader, Colonel Shakira Nurse something. It was something. Can't pronounce their name. So yeah, I'm thinking that security suit we saw was probably them. So we're gonna skip Shadow Wing. Okay, another thing this could be referencing is Wraith Squadron. Wraith Leader, you're clear to start your attack run. We detect no defensive emplacements or scanners. They should be easy. This should be easy. TIE Fighter Squadron, Shatter, intercepted. Wraith Squadron was an Imperial squadron that was wiped out by the Rogue Shadow sometime before, during 1BBY. Say Wraith because, you know, the nature of how it sounds ghostly hiding within the shadows. Wraith, shadows, phantoms, Phantom the Opera, the Predator, getting off course here. It might be. There's other ones I think probably are more likely, but you never know. And another one that could be would be Obsidian Squadron. Except for that, they're not known for their stealth. But again, Obsidian Reaper, Obsidian Squadron. This was an elite squadron that was always with Darth Vader's Death Squadron. Obsidian Squadron. Obsidian Squadron was a TIE LN starfighter squadron that was trained to fly ships that had been specially modified for atmospheric engagements. These craft allowed them to perform seemingly impossible maneuvers and had special high output solar panels installed to boost weapon strength. The pilots of Obsidian Squadron were also specifically trained and led by Chiv Rashan. They were stationed aboard the Star Destroyer Avenger. That's probably one of my favorite ones in the squadron, and tasked with pursuing the Millennium Falcon. First, it entered the Hoth asteroid field, and again later as it escaped from Bespin Cloud City. They were then stationed at Bespin as part of the permanent garrison there. During the construction of the second Death Star near Endor, Obsidian Squadron was called in to help defend the space station, being assigned aboard the Star Destroyer Thunderflare. Thunderflare is also a pretty cool one. It partially could be a reference to them. I think it's more likely to be a reference for them than it would be the Shadow Squadron and Shadow Wing 204th that I mentioned before. There's still a couple things though. It it makes me think of TIE Phantoms, but you never know. The name itself is Obsidian Reaper, so this really could be Obsidian Squadron. It's just, the second part here, while striking from the shadows. Um, this isn't exactly striking from the shadows how they fight. The next one, Onyx Squadron. There's two different sets of lore for this. Depending on how you look at canon, which now you can pick and choose what you want it to be. There was a lot of famous people in it. Han Solo was briefly in it. He flew a TIE Brute. It's a variant of TIE fighter that has two heavy laser cannons on it, and it's integrated with a droid. Onyx Squadron. Onyx Squadron maintains formation. Onyx Squadron was a starfighter squadron in the Galactic Empire that was commanded by Onyx leader Ubil. Cadet something and Cadet Han Solo were a part of the squadron in 10 BBY and flew TIE RB Heavy starfighters, also known as the TIE Heavy Brute. Sorry, TIE Brute, not Heavy Brute. That would probably be like 3 times, 4 times heavier. At one point, they were assigned aboard the Cantonwell class arrestor cruiser and were attacked by raiders. Solo disobeyed orders to save Onyx 2, leading to his craft's damage and crash aboard their ship. He was then sentenced at a tribunal for disobeying orders. I would take that as the earlier lore. Like I'm gonna mishmash them together because that we basically can do that now. I know this will make some people crazy. Onyx Squadron later on in their history, or if you're just gonna count Legends canon, these guys became super dangerously elite. They flew a lot of extremely dangerous and unique TIEs, especially the TIE X Advanced X7, which would later become the TIE Defender, the Empire's most dangerous starfighter. Um, and they had a heck of a lot of extremely elite pilots. Han Solo would obviously be one of them because he's one of the greatest in the entire galaxy after moi. And to go further with the lore, Imperial High Command decided that Defender pilots would only be selected from TIE Interceptor pilots who had flown at least 20 combat missions and survived. We are either the best pilots in the Imperial Navy or the luckiest. Onyx Squadron leader Rexiller Braith. Onyx Squadron was a starfighter squadron within the Imperial Navy. Like many Imperial squadrons, it was named for something dark in color to emulate Darth Vader's famous Black Squadron. So, yeah, that's kind of unique. So you have squadrons that technically are imitating the 181st and uh, apparently Black Squadron. Um, they, I'm not gonna completely, read this part, but they flew TIE SA bombers. They also flew TIE AG aggressor starfighters, and they also, but they're mostly well known for being extremely deadly elite TIE Defender pilots. Um, Two of the pilots, if not a couple more, also personally fly Darth Vader's shuttle for him. You specifically see them in Return of the Jedi. And the most famous people that you would see in Onyx Squadron during Return of the Jedi, which is my favorite one, is Rexil Breath. He is their leader, with Colonel Jindan and Captain Yor, and I think those two were the ones that fly Darth Vader's shuttle personally. They gotta be awesome if they're the ones that are flying personally for him. So, moving on. I definitely think it's very possible it could be them. It's very possible. Just because of the name. I mean, granted, yeah, it's not specifically Obsidian like the other group, but it fits with a lot with it, and just the theme of it. They would use a lot of ambush tactics. Technically, you could say that's the same for all of them, like flat out all of them. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And then technically, it could also be referencing the 123rd Night Stalker group. Parts of the name remind me of that, especially, striking from within the shadows. Um, the 123rd Night Stalker group was an Imperial Starfleet starfighter wing that participated in combat operations during the Galactic Civil War, comprised solely of TIE fighters. This wing was stationed aboard the Singularity and served during and under the direct command of Black Hole. Um, what's going to be unique about his ties is they're technically going to be a unique type of stealth tie. I'll get more into that later. This could be referencing them, but I still believe it's probably referencing TIE Phantoms, not these guys. It also technically could be referencing Blackwing Squadron. Blackwing Squadron was an elite TIE fighter wing serving on board the Imperial 2 class Star Destroyer Chimera. It was led by Lieutenant somebody who based the squadron off of Rogue Squadron, an elite wing of in the New Republic. It comprised mostly of regular TIE fighters, the TIE LN. It was notable. It would be notable in fights at the Battle of Berberling. I might have said that right. Which saw the death of Grand Admiral Thrawn. Um, it's very vague. It's less likely than the other ones to be this one. Very less likely. But still, and then you have a different Shadow Wing that this could be a part of. There's a bunch of Shadow Wings actually. This Shadow Wing was also a tie-in LN Starfighter Squadron within the Galactic Civil War, and they used shadow call signs. I I do have a couple of them. One of them is a PS292. Their suit of armor looks very unique. It's actually quite different than what we saw before, but at the same time, this would be for Legends. It would be for two specific pilots. Hopefully, we get their armor. Granted, yes, I also don't like their armor as much as the classic armor, but part of the paint job for it does look pretty cool. PS2 9, I mean, sorry, I should probably say PS29 too. Nickname for Minoc, was a male TIE pilot in the Imperial Navy during the Galactic Civil War. He was part of the Imperial Shadow Wing and flew under the call sign Shadow 2. When not tweaking the control systems of his TIE fighter, he could be found studying Rebel starfighter schematics. His fighter was used to enforce blockades and had exquisite handling and for slashing attacks on unescorted transports and freighters. PS29-2 wore a black TIE Fighter pilot helmet and jumpsuit. Looking at this, it doesn't look like a normal one, though. Don't know if it's just the art style or what. But the lore for him really does fit with that Obsidian Order. Also, the Obsidian Order, I think I mentioned it before, it could easily, be a reference to, well, actually, I didn't reference it before. The Obsidian Order actually could also be a reference for, Maracas Steel and the Emperor's Hands that are TIE pilots. It's possible. There's some aspects to that also fit in. And then you have another one, PS29-3. That's a better shot, to be honest with you. PS-29-3, also known as the Hammer, was a male TIE pilot in the Imperial Navy during the Galactic Civil War. PS-29-3 flew under the call sign Shadow 3 in the Imperial Shadow Wing. He recorded the highest score in Academy TIE Fighter Pilot Simulator drills, and a fact that caught Admiral Conan Antonio Mauta's attention. PS-29-3's starfighter had a command system capable of coordinating the combined power of the entire Shadow Wing. He wore a black TIE pilot helmet and jumpsuit. He had designed on being, and had designs on being the leading pilot of Shadow Wing. It's kind of weird. But yeah, it could be a reference. And then you have this Shadow Wing. You have this Shadow Squadron. Shadow Squadron was an Imperial group that flew TIE fighters and that was led by Boba Fett's Slave One. The squadron attacked the frigate Salvation during the battle near the Iton Nebula. Now, that's kind of misleading wording that they have on Wikipedia, which, you shouldn't take Wikipedia at face value for a lot of this lore. Some of it pretty much checks out because a lot of these squadrons, or the most famous ones, I'm very familiar with, and so far from the stuff I've read, it checks out. They're clearly not flying TIE fighters, though. They were flying very unique variations. I would assume they're variations because it's nearly identical. Variations of the TIE Advanced Bomber. The TIE Advanced Bomber, the inner part that you see right here. Whoa. Okay, let's use this as an example since it's covering up the other one. See the pods right here? That's exactly like the TIE Advanced Bomber. The thing that's not like it is the reversed outer wings that are very similar to a TIE Defenders. They're also completely armed with ion weapons, which in the new lore is incredibly devastating. What's very unique about these, and it might not be something they exclusively carry, or it may be, you never know. These were specifically loaded with boarding torpedoes full of an insanely dangerous type of stormtrooper, elite special forces stormtrooper. It's known as the Terror Trooper, and it is quite terrifying. It uses melee combat. It is a biroid, which is a completely designed by purpose biological entity that in practice you can call them biorobot, even though it is a living thing. The DNA from them is likely Star Killers. It's 99% likely his, just because everything else is that is on Camino that's being created is from clones of him or altered clones of him. One of the most dangerous ones being a hybrid clone of Darth Maul and Star Killer. These things naturally are able to use force stealth, force dodge, force evade, force cloak, force evasion, force teleport rapidly. They are insanely dangerous. Only one person, not Star Killer, was able to kill one, and that's because they're being used on a mission they are not designed for, which is taking prisoners. They're not meant for that, so that puts them at risk of being out in the open, in which they can be attacked. Um, and even he had insane difficulty with them with those kinds of abilities. Um, but these are very cool. Could be a reference to them. I hope those show up. Likely, definitely won't show up, but sorry, I shouldn't say likely, definitely. It's likely they won't show up. I should have said it like that. But they are very cool. I would love to see them in some kind of game, even if it's not in a flight simulator game. And then you have Shadow Squadron that is a TIE Defender Squadron. It could be a reference to them as well. Likely not, but be, again, I'm pretty sure it's TIE Phantoms. We'll get to it. I promise. It's just there's so many cool squadrons you gotta mention that a lot of people need to be aware of because they have a lot of cool squadrons other than the 181st and the 154th, of course. Um, Shadow Squadron was a TIE Defender squadron associated with the Imperial Grand Admiral Demetrius Zarin, an awesome Grand Admiral. I should mention. He actually pawned Thrawn a couple of times. His they were associated with his TIE experimental project. Fighters from Shadow Squadron participated in both the defenses of Bretil Facility and Research Station Obsidian. You know, I take it back. There is a high chance it actually is a reference to specifically Zarn's, Demetrius Zarn's TIE Defender Squadron. Okay. However, on each occasion, the intervention the intervention proved fruitless. That being because he is, kind of having to fight Meraki Steel, and or they're having to deal with the main character that is in the X-Wing Alliance, which the characters you always play as in the flight simulator games, they're extremely force sensitive and extremely deadly aces, of course. You wouldn't want to be anyone else. You'll probably die, but yeah, I some of this I didn't notice before, but yeah, there is an extremely high chance that Obsidian Order is Shadow Squadron. TIE Defender Shadow Squadron under Grand Admiral Zarn. I'm glad I mentioned that myself. Okay, and then getting to the really good stuff, you have Shadow Squadron for the TIE Phantoms. Um, unlike the one we mentioned before, I was thinking it would be TIE Phantoms. I still think it highly could be, although now it's probably Zarn's TIE Defender Squadron. Now, that's a very sick picture too. Um, Shadow Squadron, TIE Phantoms. Shadow Squadron was a TIE Phantom Squadron, starfighter squadron utilized by the Galactic Empire. At some point during the Galactic Civil War, Shadow Squadron was charged with protecting a space station with an Imperial fleet. And this might be one of the most dangerous TIEs or stealth fighters in any lore to exist, just because of the nature of their stealth abilities. They perfectly cloak. When I say perfectly cloak, I mean with your naked eye, you won't see any distortion whatsoever. Um, And in the lore, their stealth actually completely nullifies. It cannot be detected by any sort of sensor whatsoever that exists in Star Wars. And there's some things indicating that it uses a Stygian type cloaking system. There is indicators to believe that the Stygian crystal has force-like abilities like the Kyber crystal. Um, there are some Jedi that have made they have made Stygian crystal-powered lightsabers instead of Kyber ones, and it says in the lore that the Stygian crystals, if that Jedi is highly skilled with the various different stealth force abilities, they'll become even more powerful with those stealth abilities. That you can't just do that with any normal crystal. So their cloaking technology in these TIE Phantoms is likely a hybrid supernatural style cloaking system, just like how the Death Star 2's super weapon, the super laser, and Death Star 1 and Death Star 2 and the Star Killer and any of the various Star Destroyers that have super lasers. They're a hybrid quasi technological slash supernatural super weapon, with the Star Killer being almost completely a supernatural super weapon. So that's pretty unique. I hope you guys like that fact. I was thinking it would be one of these various squadrons because just how cool they are. And then after them, you got Sigma Squadron. These guys are the most dangerous when it comes to TIE Phantoms. Sigma Squadron stands ready, awaiting your command. Saran to Darth Vader. Sigma Squadron was a starfighter squadron of the Imperial Navy that was equipped with TIE Phantoms. To demonstrate the new starfighter's effectiveness to Darth Vader, Admiral Sarn deployed Sigma Squadron against a Rebel Alliance patrol in the Durgian Triangle. All three Rebel fighters were destroyed, and the TIE sustained no casualties. I take it back. That's not the most elite one, but they're pretty awesome. Could be a reference to them, but not likely. Out of all the different TIE Phantoms, because there's more famous ones than just that. That's from Rebel Assault 2. Don't forget to check out the cutscenes for that, because that's like an interactive movie and it's very entertaining. It could be a reference to Eben Squadron. Eben Squadron was a starfighter squadron that flew tie-in starfighters in the service of the Galactic Empire. Flown by the pilots trained to use group strategies and tactics, the squadron's TIEs had improved targeting systems and at the expense of maneuverability and defensive capabilities, which were among the poorest in the Imperial Navy. Likely not. These guys are getting further down the list as, being potentially the one this was intended for, but it still is close to them. Compared to other squadrons. And then you have the 481st Experimental Starfighter Testing Squadron. The 481st Experimental Starfighter Testing Squadron was a starfighter squadron in the Imperial Navy during the Galactic Civil War, formed of highly trained pilots. The 481st was initially founded during the development of the TIE LN Starfighter, under the command of Lieutenant Commander Gareth Agmar. The 481st was stationed aboard the EF-76 Nebulon B escort frigate Nephilis near Polis Massus, from where the squadron conducted tests of the TIE Phantom, an Imperial starfighter filled with experimental fitted with an experimental cloaking device, which again is that unique Stygian type cloaking device. I believe Baron Fell, before he was a Baron, he was a colonel at the time, or a captain. I do know this, he test flew lots of the TIEs. I don't know if he was part of the 481st when he did this, but Baron Fell felt that the TIE Phantom shouldn't be used for super ambush attacks. It should be used for deep reconnaissance which actually that's a fairly good idea. Using a recon vehicle that cannot be detected whatsoever, that would be extremely deadly to use on your enemies for recon and intelligence. Okay, and then you have Black 8 Squadron. Likely not them, but we gotta mention them anyway. They are really, really cool. Black 8 Squadron. The Black 8 Squadron was an Imperial military unit composed of pilots who were highly trained in flying the TIE LN starfighters and the TIE SA bombers of the Imperial Navy. The Sith Lord Darth Vader maintained the squadron under his direct command and personally supervised the selection of its lead pilot, Captain Juno Eclipse, and other ace pilots with exceptional flight records. Were assigned to Vader's personal squadron. After the Battle of Yavin, Darth Vader reorganized Black 8 Squadron into a group of convicted pilots led by Nass Gent, a former ace pilot of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. By 1 ABY, the squadron was headquartered on the Imperial-class Star Destroyer Crucible as a result of the Rebel Alliance's victories in minor space battles. What it doesn't mention here is a lot of the greatest pilots in their squadron, including Juno Eclipse, end up becoming TIE Punisher pilots. The TIE Punisher is an incredibly awesome TIE, besides the fact that it's named after Frank Castle, but not really, but it still is the greatest. These guys are really awesome. They destroyed a planet using the TIE Punishers and attacking an enemy power source that had devastating effects doing so. Let's see. Black Epsilon. We are a division of the Imperial Navy, but no record in the Imperial Archive on Coruscant would indicate our existence. We serve the will of the Emperor directly and silently. When political necessities requires a war, we create war. When it requires peace, we silence those who oppose peace. Now, one of those earlier squadrons that we mentioned also could be Black Epsilon. One of the ones we looked at before that was about going on missions that people were not aware of. Now, so in that regard, it's probably definitely not going to be Black Epsilon. Then you have Dark Blade Squadron. Dark Blade Squadron was a fearsome squadron of TIE interceptors, led by Tam Blackstar, a competent pilot who has many victories under his belt. I think I'm aware of him. He was pretty cool. He was in the RPG from a long time ago. Out of all the ones that we've gone through, it's likely not them, but you never know. Then you have Dark Squadron itself. Dark Squadron was a starfighter squadron in the Imperial Navy that flew TIE LN starfighters. The squadron was made up of some of the best pilots in the galaxy, and they were given the best equipment and underwent sophisticated training programs. The squadron was assigned to become part of Bias Defense Fleet, led by Admiral Gleder Varth and Inquisitor Valen Draco, and subsequently participated in the Battle of Bias against the Alderaan Resistance. After Emperor Palpatine's death at the Battle of Endor, Dark Squadron worked for his Dark Empire following the rebirth in a clone body. Now, there's a chance Dark Squadron ended up having pilots, their aces that have been shot down, become the Shadow Droids. Shadow Droids are not actually droids, they're starfighters that have the brains of the aces in them, and they are kept alive and fused with the dark side of the Force, and they're highly linked, because their bodies technically are the starfighters now. They're linked to it, and so they can do extremely deadly things, and it's a mistake to mistake them for a droid, let's just say. There was another TIE Phantom Squadron, but for some reason, I just can't remember. It was under the command of one of the Grand Admirals. You see, the project was linked to a Grand Admiral. He had suspicions that the TIE Defender and other fighters could be used against the Empire, so the TIE Phantom was also created to counter the TIE Phantom, and there's a good chance it would have been successful too, just because of how dangerous. So I take it back. It was that most elite squadron, the Shadow Squadron for TIE Phantoms, um, that had the TIE Phantoms, and they were under the control of Martiro Batch, Grand Admiral Martiro Batch. He was the Grand Admiral I was just telling you about, that was in charge of the TIE Phantom program, which is kind of weird. I don't know why they, out of universe, why they did that, because in the whole game it has the TIE Phantoms, and it's just an admiral that's in charge. If they redid it, or they just should have had him be the guy that was in that game. Although that guy was a little bit incompetent in some ways, still, that was the most elite one. I thought there was another squadron I was missing. I was not, however. So, let's get back to this. It's very likely, I still think most of all, now that I know this, mostly, I'm leaning towards Grand Admiral Zarn's elite Shadow Squadron, TIE Defender Squadron, and then Shadow Squadron for TIE Phantoms. But, there's a bunch of other squadrons and other things this could be referencing. Now, back to the other stuff. We got our fangs out. Your frightening visage. Your frightening visage is the last thing Rebel pilots will see if they're foolish enough to take you head on. Now, this is a pretty cool one. This is probably tied for first place for me. It references a lot of things, believe it or not. This is most of all, definitely for sure, it's Titan Squadrons icons that are on this. So, without a doubt, it's Titan Squadron. But believe it or not, did you know that we've had various, or at least extremely minorly, had other TIE pilots that have designed skulls on their helmets? Believe it or not, Black Squadron in A New Hope, there was a pilot that did have a silver skull on the faceplate of his helmet. Problem is, most of the people that did unique detailing for the TIE Fighter pilot helmets in that movie, the silver detailing is so faint that most of the time it didn't show up. So that's why a lot of people didn't know that, and it gives the impression that in the Imperial era that they're more soulless in design than the artistic freedom they had in the Republic era with the clone troopers and clone pilots. But that's not the case, especially the stuff they're showing now. But technically this could be a reference to the Skull Squadron I mentioned earlier, and there's also other Skull Squadrons. There was, I'm not I'll save the other one for later, but the first Imperial Center Core Defense, they're simply, they're also known as Skull Squadron. They had emblems very similar to this, and so it could technically be a slight reference to them, although it without a doubt is a reference to Titan Squadron. And it's a pretty cool one. Pretty cool. So, moving on to the next one. Okay, what we got here is Skip Tracer Helmets. And this is now my least favorite one. Definitely the least favorite. Skip Tracer Helmet. Specialized equipment and excessive force are authorized for pilots pursuing fugitives of the Empire. Now, some of the stuff we mentioned before could easily, be a reference to this, the various squadrons. So if you want to check the squadrons out, again, what I mentioned before, go ahead. It's also kind of vague, so again, it could be any squadron I didn't mention, and believe me, there is a lot of them, and they're very, very cool. Um, let's just move on. I don't think it exclusively references anyone particularly. Um, well, other than Titan Squadron. No, sorry. We just talked about Titan Squadron. But just to go back, if you want to know a little bit more, this is what we got the scoop on Titan Squadron. It was a starfighter squadron of the Galactic Empire that consisted of 5 TIE fighter pilots that was active during the Galactic Civil War and participated in several conflicts against the New Republic. One member has a distinctive red skull on their pilot helmet. That looked more orange than red, but whatever. In addition to the red stripes on his TIE Interceptor. So he's heavily, referencing the 181st. Wait, you know what? Maybe it's these guys. The 29th Fast Attack Squadron. The 29th Fast Attack Squadron was a starfighter squadron in the Imperial Navy during the Galactic Civil War. The TIE Defender pilots from the 29th Fast Attack Squadron were part of a mixed squadron with TIE Interceptor pilots from the 92nd Interceptor Squadron stationed aboard the EF-76 Nebula B escort frigate Myphilus while it conducted tests on the TIE Phantom near Polis Massus. That's a crazy mix of starfighters. No one should survive that. it could be a reference to them. So yeah, my least favorite one. So we're gonna move on as well from looking at that. So what we got here? I don't really see any differences here. There could be some detailing on the side of the helmet. It seems like maybe the colorization might not be as flashy as it was before. But reinforced helmet. Um, Fortified plastoid armor allows pilots to endure particularly brutal battle conditions. Again, there's not really much to go over with this one. It looks cool. I definitely would love to have it early. This looks pretty gosh dang awesome. Alliance helmet awarded to decorated pilots who proved absolutely loyal. Sorry, absolutely loyalty. Absolute loyalty to the Emperor Palpatine, following the Clone Wars. So this is almost like, looking at the colors of it, although technically we've never seen a Royal Guard TIE Interceptor pilot, it almost reminds me of a Shock Trooper TIE pilot, just because their colorization is red and white. This one's red, white, and black. I guess it's hypothetically possible that TIE Interceptor Royal Guard pilots have red and white armor, but it still sounds very much tied to the First Legion, aka the Coruscant Guard, aka Shock Stormtroopers, because their colorization is that, and they're highly linked with Emperor Palpatine. Um, if that's not them, then they possibly could be a reference to Glaive Squadron. Although it's very tragic what happens to Glaive Squadron and Red Star Squadron. They're both controlled by the same people. Um, Glaive Squadron was an elite TIE Defender squadron within the Galactic Empire. It identified. It was identified with crimson, having a red or crimson red hull, not unlike the Emperor's Royal Guard TIE Interceptors. Countess Iron Ryad was a former member of that unit. So she probably had this unit before later taking charge of Red Star Squadron, but they're painted the same way, and they're both TIE Defender squadrons. It would be very ironic though, because she becomes traitorous. She's still fighting for the Empire, but she starts doing things her own way, and so they actually send Baron Fell to deal with her. And in his TIE Interceptor, he takes her on with her TIE Defender, which is further enhanced with better fire control and probably a better targeting computer. He still beats her. it should take note that Baron Fell preferred TIE Interceptors over TIE Defenders. He easily could have had TIE Defenders in his squadron, but chose the TIE Interceptor. Probably because there's a lot of things about it that make it superior to a TIE Defender. It's smaller, has less blind spots, which is an issue if your scanning equipment is hampered by ECM. The TIE Interceptor is the Empire's best dogfighter, and I say specifically dogfighter. TIE Defender is the best starfighter. The TIE Interceptor is the best at dogfighting specifically. Hypothetically, that means, TIE Defender is a better interceptor than the Interceptor, although the power of their cannons, which they're the same exact model, they can potentially just one-shot kill anything anyway, so maybe that part wouldn't matter, but I would, in that regard, since they have the same firepower, it is better to have the one with shielding rather than one without. But then again, this still could be a Royal Guard TIE Interceptor pilot's colors for their helmet. This is awesome. I probably, out of all the ones we've seen, this probably is the one that I would go for. So, moving on. And it is sweet. Okay, then you got this, which is, it's awkward because we already talked about the ISB loyalty. I mean, sorry, the ISB, Internal Security Bureau. So, the other stuff involving loyalty and stuff, and security, it obviously can't be referencing the ISB, because the ISB now technically have their own TIE pilots, and the helmet and gear, I'm not thrilled by it. And we already have a bunch of stuff with red and white, apparently, so it's getting repetitive with some of the colors. It still is cool, but it's not as cool as other ones, especially the ones I've already picked. And, there's nothing else that can be referencing. Again, it's the ISB. Agents of the Imperial Security Bureau not only uncover traitors in the Empire, or to the Empire, but inspire absolute obedience within their assigned squadrons. Should be interesting to see what their specific squadrons are. Again, not bad. Then you got this one. Chromium Enhanced Helmet. Starships belonging to irrelevant monarchs were melted down to strengthen the armor of elite Imperial pilots. This essentially, because of the lore for the Chrome, this essentially makes it so that Chromium TIE pilots are TIE nuke troopers, or rad troopers, effectively. The lore for things with Chromium make them so well defended that even blasters can't harm them. They have near perfect protection against various types of radiation and intensities of radiation. I can't recall any except for ones that are so insanely powerful it's like blowing up ships that, with output like that, of course you're probably going to be destroyed. But they like I said, they're effectively rad trooper TIE pilots. They can survive all that kind of stuff. The colorization is cool. It's just the armor that it's on. It's one of my least favorite variants of the TIE pilot helmet and armor. Now, who could that be referencing? It could be any. It could even reference the 722nd. Although I kind of doubt it. It could be any elite squadron. Any of the various elite squadrons that I have mentioned. It could be them. Or it could be ones I haven't mentioned. It could be anything. It wouldn't be 181st, obviously, because they don't have silvers and stuff. But it could even be a Storm Squadron. Heck, it could be. Well, no, it couldn't be them. I was gonna say it could be Skull Squadron, but it probably wouldn't be. Well, I take it back. Remember, I was mentioning this earlier. It could be Skull Squadron, but it's a different Skull Squadron. This Skull Squadron that it could be is here's I'm gonna read this to you. It's on their article. Names Frin Rao, General, and Skull Squadron is happy to demonstrate that not all Mandalorians have forgotten their honor and obligation. These were Imperial Mandalorians, just so you know. Skull Squadron was a squadron of Fang fighters flown by Mandalorian protectors who assisted the Galactic Republic during the Clone Wars. In the final months of the war, Skull Squadron was led by Skull Leader Frin Rao, who commanded the Mandalorian squadron in the Third Battle of Megiddo. During the battle, Jedi General Deepa Bithbilla, I could be saying the name wrong, and Padawan Caleb Doom have been trapped by separatist battle droids, and Rao led Skull Squadron to save their lives. Over 15 years later, Doom, under the name Kan Jarrus, met Rao on the third moon of Concord Dawn, and he offered to return the favor. Now, it's likely, since they're Mandalorians, that they might have more Mandalorian-like fighter pilot gear, but then again, they might just go with this stuff. And I might partially be mistaken, because I thought these guys were also in the Empire, not just the Republic. So it's possible they're not even. No, no, I take it back. They were in the Imperial Navy. So it's possible these guys have this gear. Again, the colorization's pretty cool, but the design of the helmet's my least, well, second. Well, it's my second favorite, I guess. Yeah, there's only 3 designs so far, so I guess it's my second favorite. Colorization's awesome, but second favorite structurally designed. This is awesome. The classic helmet, but silver. Okay. Silver Slayer, Radiant Menace, and incites fear whenever you fly. Or, sorry, I should rephrase it. Radiate Menace, and incite fear wherever you fly. This would be my go-to one. This is going to be freaking awesome. I can guarantee you that this is what the elite squadrons are flying. It probably doesn't have the same protection as the chromium one, unless that is chromium. Even then, if you look at it, there's lots of spots that are black, so unless it's painted over the chromium, those parts wouldn't be protected, and you can have giant doses of ultra dangerous radiation hitting you in the brain, and you'd be in some serious trouble. But Skull Squadron could be using these helmets, and then other than Skull Squadron, you could have the Emperor's Swords. The Emperor's Swords was a fighter wing in the Imperial military during the Galactic Civil War, made up of elite pilots sworn to defend Emperor Palpatine. The Emperor's Swords was stationed on Coruscant, but always traveled with the Emperor and were therefore present at the Battle of Endor at the Death Star 2. Shortly before the Battle of Endor, as such, they also participated in squadron parades signifying the Emperor's arrival. Alongside its sister squadron, Emperor's Shield, and Scythe Squadron, due to the pilots' years of experience, they tended to fly older TIE series starfighters, such as the TIE LN starfighter. Marcus Steele was put in command of the Emperor's Sword after his role in saving Palpatine from a coup by rogue Grand Admiral Demetrius Zarin. They're a pretty cool squadron. I could have swore the Emperor's Spear was part of that, but evidently not. And then after that, then you have the Emperor's Shield, the lore for them. The Emperor's Shield was a squadron of TIE fighters trained by Grand Admiral Thrawn. They were given missions in the Outer Rim during the height of the Galactic Civil War, and were later assigned to protect Emperor Palpatine during his inspection of the second Death Star. Upon the Emperor's arrival, the Emperor's Shield Squadron participated in flight parades alongside Scythe Squadron and the Emperor's Sword. Again, with such prestigious squadrons, I would not be surprised if they were the quote-unquote Silver Slayers that you see this referencing. Pretty cool. Um, let's see. I'm pretty sure there could be other ones as well, though, like possibly Vixu Squadron was a squadron of Imperial Navy during the Galactic Civil War. They were dispatched to Celeste, the prelate Verge, and Captain Tabor something. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the name. The predicted attacks from the Rebel Alliance 61st Mobile Infantry. When the 61st took the factory of Nu Tor, Vexor's squadron ambushed their starships, shooting down the CR-90 corvette Thunderstrike and forcing its escorts. Okay, I'm not gonna pronounce it, but they were gunships to flee. Its bombers then ravaged what was left of this Thunderstrike that night, which left the 61st stranded on Celeste, anticipating the imminent attack from Prelate Verge and Captain Sethian aboard the Herald. That's kind of obscure, but you know, they're pretty elite. Like I said, any squadron that we haven't seen stuff significantly for that is an elite squadron could easily be that squadron. You know, it's just possible. Or it could be its own thing, of course. That's always possible as well. I kind of doubt it is, but you never know. So, could also be the 133rd Imperial Fighter Group. The 133rd Imperial Fighter Group was a starfighter group that was attached to the fleet of Xandil Caravius during the stint in the head of Imperial's internal ruling council. The 133rd fought during their battle against the forces of Baron Rags. Okay. Alien name. It's an alien name, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So, going with that, I think I went over the 29th Fast Attack Squadron. It could be them. Either way, this is a freaking awesome set of armor. If there's no glorious purple armor that I can have in this, this is what I would take. Man, that's just beautiful. And that is terrible. Why would it have something cool associated with it but look so terrible? This is my least favorite one. This is absolutely my least favorite one. How could you do this? This is my favorite helmet, but the paint job is so terrible that I just wanted to cease existing. Okay, the Bronze Baron. The Vonregs, Sinars, and other noble families have dedicated themselves to the Imperial war effort, and they shall be rewarded with crappy bronze material. Not the glorious chromium, not the glorious silver armor. You're gonna get crappy bronze. Are you kidding me? Okay, so the lore for it is really awesome. From what it sounds like, family members of those prestigious families, if they become aces, or barons even, they're given this bronze helmet at the very least. It could also, besides it being a reference to them, it can be a reference to the 722nd, which I mentioned them before, but I stopped. Mainly because of this. I'll tell you now. The 722nd, also known as the Copperheads, were a starfighter unit within the Imperial Military Starfighter Corps. Flight Captain Martel Devani, the flight leader of the 181st Squadron within the 181st Imperial Fighter Wing, and the first publicly announced female TIE pilot, had formerly served under the 722nd for a year prior to joining this elite TIE Fighter Wing. At the very least, the colorization for it could be a reference to them. They sound good, but not necessarily Baron material or Ace material. They have a cool name designation at least. You know that's always going to count for something. You know, if you don't have that, then what else do you got? Well, having nothing's better than this bronze gear. To be honest with you, I take part of what I said back. That bronze stuff, man. Okay, hazard helmet. Heavy insulated helmet protects pilots who deploy into harsh, hostile environments. Um, it looks like it might have some white, maybe some silver colorization on some parts of it. That or it's just a very reflective plate. Not quite sure. Not very impressed with it. There could be a squadron that's dedicated to this. I'm not aware of them, but it also could be its own thing for this. Not really digging it. I hate to say. Um, so you got different. Wait, why did you do that? Even with this thing sped up, he kind of flipped around there. Okay, I'm gonna pause this immediately once it gets to the first one. Imperial Navy TIE Pilot Flight Suit. Fewer than 10% of certified candidates ever earn the right to wear the Galactic Empire's standard issue uniform. That's true. And it makes me think that a lot of the people that should have become Jedi ended up becoming part of that 10% that become TIE pilots, because it requires insanely good reflexes and skills to be a TIE pilot, considering what they're flying and the conditions they have to fly in. All in all, looks pretty cool. Okay, hazard flight suit. That also looks kind of cool, I'm not going to lie. Heavy insulated equipment protects pilots who deploy into harsh, hostile environments. Again, I'm not aware of any squadron that's like that. Okay, Alliance flight suit. Looks very spiffy. Awarded to decorated pilots who proved absolute loyalty to Emperor Palpatine following the Clone Wars. Again, we went over this. It could be either the Royal Guard TIE Interceptor suits or Red Star or Glaive Squadron. Could be a shock trooper hybrid TIE pilot from the First Guard. There are some stormtrooper legions that do have pilots as well, so this could be a shock trooper stormtrooper. Sorry, a shock trooper TIE pilot. Let's see. And like I said, it looks pretty good. Just fingers crossed for purple. Fingers are crossed for purple. Okay. Reinforced flight suit. The fortified plastoid armor allows pilots to endure particularly brutal battle conditions. I'm actually not really digging how short the hoses are on this thing. Not sure if it's exclusive to that helmet type or the body type, but those hoses, they seem too short for the pilot to be able to move his head around very well. Not a good thing. Not a good thing. Technical flight suit. Pilots with exceptional survival records are entitled to specialized survival gear. Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. The hoses look somehow smaller. Congratulations to any pilot that wears that. Doesn't look bad. Doesn't look great either. Okay, Imperial Navy TIE pilot suit. Okay, Laurie went through this. Not sure why he went back to it. That's pretty much all the references that we will see with those. Okay. So I think these are just the same ones over and over again. Oh, these are the lounge suits. that seems kind of weird to me that you would have your pilot has two different sets of clothes. To be honest with you, that should just be this stuff. Okay, flight tech uniform during ground or base operations. Pilots require more dexterity than their standard flight suits allow. And so this guy is just walking around with his helmet and a normal Imperial technician suit. That looks a little bit weird, but whatever. It obviously doesn't really reference anything. Skip tracer armor. This is bringing it closer to the gear I mentioned before that is similar to what became, what I said quote unquote would be either the Elite or TIE Interceptor flight gear that you see in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and technically it was in Star Wars Uprising. Specialized equipment and excessive force are authorized for pilots pursuing fugitives of the Empire. Well, of course. Why would clown shoes be something that would be required for that kind of job? It wouldn't be. You'd be a clown to think it would. Okay. Chromium enhanced armor, starship spelling. Okay. You know the lore for it. That also looks pretty cool. Wouldn't mind picking that. Or the other one. Actually, that one looks cooler. I like the shoulder pads are a lot bigger with this one as well. I'm afraid to skip it, to be honest with you. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Maybe this one also looks... Sorry, it's not maybe. This one is tempting to pick. The ISB helmet wasn't that great because, so many of them have red, But this one looks like it's the only body armor that has... Okay, never mind, the Royal Guard one did. Well, this is in the lounge, though, so this is really weird. Man, why did they do this? So in the lounge, I'm tempted to pick the ISB Loyalty Officer's armor. It looks really cool. But that's just completely weird to me that they would do that. Like ISB loyalty pants, gloves, hazard gloves. I don't think there's gonna be really any references to the glove. Oh, those van braces looked awesome though. I probably would pick those. Chromium van braces. And then you have emotes, which we're gonna just quickly go through. When I say quickly, I mean almost skip, because no one cares about emotes. Nobody cares. I certainly don't care. You're just gonna do that in the lounge with the other pilots in your squadron. I guess I could see some merit in it. Some. But that's kind of pushing it, Okay, gonna slow this down. We're gonna go to our Imperial approved stuff. Don't forget, like I said, this is Bombastic's video, so don't forget to check his out because he probably has, he has a lot of different things to say than I did. And this is originally his video, and I'm very thankful that he made this because, again, I don't have any clear stuff that I've seen online where I can just look at his stuff. Not his stuff, but stuff for this game to analyze. So, the Space Security Series, freshly manufactured by Sinar Fleet Systems and ready to deploy. So yeah, that's the standard paint job for the ties. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. Well, I think it'd probably be safer if I let it do it, just because I don't want to skip too far. Although he is. Okay, here we go. Radiance. Imperial starfighters burn. Tremendous amount of heat inside and out. So style wise, well, there can be a lot of things this is referencing. This probably might be one of the most sought after skins, although knock on wood. Give me Black Knight Squadron. This is Black Knight Squadron right here. Their emblem, they're the best. And their TIE Interceptors, Royal Guard, Lunar TIE Interceptors of the Lunar Empire. You cannot beat that, especially its intensely powerful purple laser cannons. That is just sick. That is just incredibly deadly and sick. I need this. But if I can't, that is a good substitute. It could be a reference to all the various Shadow Squadron stuff we went through. TIE Phantoms, Shadow Squadron, Black Squadron, Black Blade Squadron. It could be a reference to the 123rd Night Stalker group I mentioned before. They have a different style of stealth. It will not be as good as what is on a TIE Phantom, but it still disrupts sensors and it's incredibly hard to see. The only thing going against it is the little red glowing parts, because excluding the internal section, the outer panel stuff, I don't think the 123rd had that. But again, yeah, it could be a reference to the various Shadow Squadrons and Shadow Wings. Just to mention one, it could also be a reference to Spectre Squadron. The lore for Spectre Squadron is almost non-existent. It was a specialized trained squadron of TIE pilots assigned to Admiral Thrawn, and during his tour during the Outer Rims. I think I mentioned this already. So, Solus Fleet Long Range Patrol Wing. That's gonna be for something else, so I won't get too much into that. But there's so many various 204 things that this could be referencing. Let's see. Well, this was Skull Squadron in their Silver Fighters. We'll get to that later. Also get to that later. Nothing is going right. No. Another Skull Squadron one. Sorry about this. See, the colorization is very similar to some degree to what that black and red TIE fighter paint scheme is. So it's possible it could be referencing this from the 481st. Oh, that's a TIE Punisher. Very sick stuff. Okay, and there's an emblem from the 7th Fleet. Where is that thing? It's like it's disappeared, which is not a good thing. That was not supposed to happen. Everything is kind of going downhill. Okay. I don't know why it's freezing up like this. Okay. Take a look at this. This is what I was saying before. Shadow Wing and all the various squadrons within Shadow Wing, the 104th, their TIE Interceptors suspiciously look very black. It makes me think that, unless it's because of the shading, because of where their TIE Interceptors are flying, it might be if they're flying black TIE Interceptors or super dark gray ones. So, excluding the fact that it's missing the red, it could be a reference to them. Possibly. Also, again, all the various other things I mentioned before that it could be a reference to. It's pretty cool. I think it's probably going to be my favorite one out of the ones, if they don't have anything Black Knight related. So, moving on. I might speed this up a bit. Okay, or not. Okay. Ashen Enforcer. TIEs patrol along the Smuggler's Run, intercept freighters suspected of carrying illicit cargo. Those who do not submit for boarding inspections are immediately obliterated. I like the blue stripes on that. We need more different colored tie markings or just flat out paint jobs for the ties other than just standard gray or light blue, grayish blue, and then having, a red stripe or no stripe at all. Or white stripes. There's a couple squadrons with white stripes. There might be one with purple and gold. Not stripes, but like a check marking on the edges, frontal edges of tie interceptors and other ties. Um, but other than that, it's kind of don't care for it. But this could be referencing multiple things. Could be referencing the Solis Fleet Long Range Patrol Wing, um, which I mentioned before. It could also be a reference to Sapphire Squadron. Sapphire Squadron, or Sapphire Flight, was an Imperial TIE fighter unit assigned to Admiral Ray Salone's Imperial-class Star Destroyer, the Vigilance, led by Sapphire leader Mas Monroe. The squadron fought in the Battle of Endor, screening the Vigilance and aiding in the destruction of 3 Rebel Alliance corvettes. Sapphire Flight lost 6 pilots prior to Admiral Salone's ordering a withdrawal from the Empire. After the Empire was defeated in the battle, leading to a retreat to the Anjai system. There's nothing saying they had blue markings, but if you're gonna have a squadron called Sapphire Squadron, there's a good chance they would have the dark blue markings that you see on this. And part of their lore kind of screams, that. And then you have the 7th Fleet, which parts of their stuff kind of, mesh with what you just heard there. The 7th Fleet carries a lot of firepower. It's sent to major conflicts where there are powerful and desperate enemies. If you don't command it, someone else will. And the 7th Fleet was a fleet of the Imperial Navy during the reign of the Galactic Empire. Years before the outbreak of the Galactic Civil War, the fleet was considered an effective and powerful force, as it had resolved major conflicts on behalf of the Empire. The fleet was commanded by Fleet Admiral Sartan, until Sartan was replaced with Grand Admiral Thrawn around 2 BBY. At the time, the Governor Price requested the aid of the 7th Fleet to deal with the rebels of the Phoenix Cell. So these guys kind of worked with, Thrawn, and there's a lot of stuff involving them in their lore that hints to the Ashen Enforcers. And again, because it is blue and, Grand Admiral Thrawn's skin is blue, that could be that reference to that. Although I would be highly suspect of that because his personal emblems for his fleet didn't involve blue. I'd still want to lean towards Sapphire Squadron. So, and again, if you want to see it, because it was pretty cool. Of course, it would go missing. Of course. You know what? Just forget it. I'm not going to go over that one again. They're pretty cool. I want to lead again towards Sapphire Squadron as that being a reference for the Ashen Enforcer. Gonna crank up the juice. There we go. Volcanic. I actually like this one, the bronze colorization of it, but it's not my favorite one. It wouldn't be my, the one that I'd go most out of the way to try to get. an Imperial ship quite literally forged in the fires of Mustafar, following a volcanic eruption near the Korvax fortress. It's kind of cool that they would be using materials that could also be potentially infused with the dark side of the Force, especially Sith magics and Force abilities. Um, the color of it could also be referencing some of, the Copperheads, but it could also be referencing the multiple squadrons of the Fire Drake, which is really cool. The Lawn Squadron to Grand Admiral Balahani Saville. And I could have said that wrong again. It's probably something I need Lucasfilm Limited to pronounce for me verbally. That's just the thing with these weird made-up names. Okay. Squadron 2 was a starfighter squadron of the Galactic Empire that served in the 3rd Fleet of the Imperial Navy and was situated aboard the flagship Fire Drake. Yeah, you could say this is specifically for a squadron that would be serving with Vader, especially since it's on his home planet. But at the same time, the stuff invokes the thoughts of fire drakes because of the volcanoes. And then on top of that, let's see, the copperheads again because of the copper look of them. It's just something to think about. It's some pretty cool stuff. You never know. I don't think it'd be those guys. Probably not them. Well, anyway, it's not bad colorization, and the lore for it makes it very interesting. But again, I'm probably gonna pick the first one that you saw. That I think it's probably the rarest one. When I say the first one, I don't mean like standard colorization. You don't normally see them with, you know. Oh, darn it! Why did he go through that one so fast? This is my fault just because, I have no way to actually look at these in any other way. Ghastly remnants. These ghosts of the galactic's past are frightful symbols of fear, death, and resurrection. Um, I mentioned the white stripes before, but I highly doubt that it would be a reference to Avenger Squadron or Alpha Squadron or Gamma and Delta Squadron, just because most of the lore for them is pre Return of the Jedi. This sounds like it would be post Return of the Jedi. It is a cool color scheme. Um, it would be one that I would second most want, maybe. Okay. Ashton Unifier. Laborers of the Outer Rim fear these distinct markings, a simple symbol of Imperial authority in trade sectors. Um, the green colorization, like I said, it's great to have more colors than just red. It's probably my least favorite one out of the ones that we just saw, though. You could say this is a reference to the 29th Fast Attack Squadron. 29th Fast Attack Squadron was a starfighter squadron. Oh, I mentioned this before. Involves TIE Defenders and TIE Phantoms. That's not necessarily a traded out one. Some of the other ones I've mentioned before already, that actually would fit with them. Some of them, at least. I don't think it would be. Actually, you know what? Technically, oddly enough, no, not even then. Oh, sorry to get your hopes up. I was gonna say it could be a reference to Red Star Squadron and Clave Squadron, but their stuff's all red, so there's no way. Uh, there was Defender Squadron 1 with there's not enough there with their lore to make me think it would be them. Oh, darn it, I should not have done that. I should not have done that. So, yeah, some of the other squadrons I mentioned before that could have been references to the blue one could also apply to this. Ashen Cardinal. This one got the people that I saw watch this the most excited because it flat out mentions the 181st and makes them, primary canon again. Ashen Cardinal. Streaks of red strikes fear into the victims of the 181st Wing. Other Imperial squadrons inspired by the 181st adopted a similar menace. Yeah, the 181st, they are incredibly deadly after, Black Knight Squadron, of course. So, 181st Squadron, what can I tell you about them except for the terror and dread that they brought the enemies of the Empire, where even Rogue Squadron were terrified by these people. Little bits of lore for Saber Squadron, also known as the 181st. Saber Squadron was an elite TIE Interceptor unit and one of the squadrons of the 181st Imperial Fighter Group, and then Wing, stationed aboard the 2nd Death Star. During the Battle of Endor, Saber Squadron was assigned to defend the Star Destroyer Avenger, another, again, my favorite one out of the second, Imperial 2 classes. A task that was carried out admirably in spite of the Galactic Empire's loss at the battle. The famous Imperial pilot Sunter Fell, perhaps second only to Darth Vader, led the squadron personally. And he is epically awesome. He even took on Wedge Antilles, the leader of Rogue Squadron, during the story when they fight. And he took on the leader of the Y-Wing pilots there that was the leader of Grey Wing and Grey Group during the battle at the 2nd Endor. He took them both on single-handedly and nearly won. It was the Y-Wing pilot that shot him down. He didn't die, and he ended up becoming a deadly pilot for the Rebel Alliance, and then later on the Emperor of a new dynasty for the Galactic Empire. More lore for the 181st and Saber Squadron. Another unit was the Alpha Squadron of the 181st. Major, have your squadron make a run on the assault carriers coming down. I copy. Alpha Squadron and I will deal with the fighters. I said this already, of course. Sunter Phil and Tur pioneered during the Battle of Brentel 4. Alpha Squadron was a fighter squadron in the 3-squadron-strong 181st Imperial Fighter Group. While the Galactic Empire battled New Republic forces on Brentel 4 and 4 ABY, Baron Fell led Alpha Squadron in the city of Ordoran. He then took the squadron to defend the city of Volton at the command of Admiral Lon Isto. And if I remember correctly, that admiral was only admiral in title. He was a bureaucrat. I don't know how he could have gotten an Imperial squadron name like that. I mean, not squadron, an Imperial rank like that. Swinter, good. Wedge, real good. Derek Kelvin, to Wedge Antilles in combat with elements of the 181st Imperial Fighter Group. The 181st Imperial Fighter Wing was an elite TIE unit serving the Galactic Empire and its descendants. At its height under the Empire, it was a 3-squadron unit known as the 181st Imperial Fighter Group. Maybe they weren't a wing. I thought they were a wing, but evidently not, unless it was edited wrong here. And distinguished by the red stripes, blood stripes, that marked the wings of their TIE interceptors. Initially the 181st Imperial Fighter Wing of the Galactic Empire, it suffered from abysmal repetition, commanded by Colonel Elver, I can't pronounce the name. 181st had lax discipline and low morale. It enjoyed a tremendous improvement with the arrival of Captain Sunter Phil and 0 BBY. Fell took command of the 2nd Squadron of the wing and quickly whipped it into shape with intense discipline and drilling. When called to fight in the Second Battle of Ord Bruntel, Fell Squadron significantly outperformed its rebel opposition. It so happened that the battle occurred on the same day as the Imperial loss of the Battle of Yavin, and the success of Ord Brunel was propagandized heavily. Fell was promoted, and the unit was downsized to a group of 3 squadrons and completely reformed with an elite roster, while the original commander remained in command. Fell was the true force behind the unit's success, as it became one of the Empire's premier fighter groups. And that indeed happened. It was just absolutely devastating if you ran into these people. Rarely, if ever, any of Rogue Squadron were shot down in their stories, and when they had to fight the 181st, they took out so many Rogue Squadron pilots you wouldn't believe it. They did a good job portraying these people. A very good job. It's good to actually have good opposition. And then the second 181st, which is the 2nd Squadron within the 181st, was the second squadron within the 181st Imperial Fighter Wing of the Imperial Navy. The squadron piloted TIE LN starfighters. This is before they had their interceptors. The squadron was commanded by Major Signer Phil around the time of the Battle of Yavin, who led the 2nd 181st Squadron at the Second Battle of Ord Brunel. Following the Battle of Duria 4 in 3 ABY, command of the 2nd 181st was given to Commander Turpiner, who continued to lead the squadron until the Battle of Bruntel 4 in 6 ABY, when Baron Phil was captured and briefly became a rebel pilot. When that happened, Tur became the overall commander of 181st, and then he had them replace their TIE interceptors with TIE defenders, except for Maracas Steel. He also became a 181st pilot. He kept his TIE Avenger, which is kind of funny because, again, Baron Phil felt that it was better having TIE interceptors, and that gives it credence for its deadliness that he would select that over TIE Defender, and he did destroy people in TIE Defenders, like that Countess I mentioned earlier. And then you have the 37th, which Baron Phil was a part of before, which is a pretty cool squadron. Sooner Phil was assigned to its 6th Squadron under Captain Lune Tessera, based aboard the Arborgator. Zelen also flew as a part of this unit. Sorry, a bunch of weird names in this. Just after Phil transferred, the 37th was engaged in combat at Sulch. Either way, that was a cool squadron. You can imagine they had some kind of other markings as well. And then for the 6th 37th, the 6th 37th was the 6th Starfighter Squadron of the 37th Imperial Fighter Wing of the Imperial Navy. The squadron piloted TIE LN starfighters and was based aboard the Albagador. Sooner Fell was assigned to the 6th 37th under Captain... Okay, this is pretty much going over the same stuff. Sorry about that. Anyway, these guys are incredibly dangerous. It is cool that they got made into primary canon. There's some people that probably would disagree because they're not happy with what's happened in the lore, and to be honest with you, I don't blame them. But at the same time, oh, and I should have mentioned that the paint scheme in the first one that's unique also resembles TIE Phantoms. A lot of people just want all the older lore to stay away now because how bad things have gotten. I can see their point of view, but at the same time, since canon's hybridized now and everything, sort of doesn't matter anyway. But it's nice to see it. I love the 181st, so I am happy to see it in this. Emperor's Guard. Pilots personally selected by Emperor Palpatine are assigned to undisclosed locations on classified missions. Now, this is most assuredly a reference to the Emperor's Royal Guard TIE interceptors. And that's a lunar version of it. It it's kind of weird that any of the squadrons can have that. I wouldn't have done something like that. That's what it originally looked like. But it also technically can be a reference to Red Star Squadron and to Glaive Squadron because all their TIE defenders were red and white like that. Actually, hold on a sec. Does it have white detailing? It almost looks like it does. So this is almost more of a reference. No, never mind. There is some white detailing on the Royal Guard TIE Interceptor. Um, oh, something to say about TIE Interceptors. Another thing that made them so dangerous is they're most of the time their reactors, or at least the first generation of them, their reactors were the exact same one as a TIE Avenger. And so TIE Interceptors could be mounted with multiple cannons, beam weapons, including beam jammers, tactical jammers, tractor beams, multi-purpose missile, projectile launchers, shielding, hyperdrive, a whole bunch of stuff, and it would not affect the reactor adversely. Um, that's probably intentionally part of the design philosophy for the Interceptor and Avenger. Sorry, Interceptor and Fighter, because they probably felt that like their elite squadrons and A squadrons, they could easily just mount this stuff because it's very easy to modify these things. It's not like rewiring stuff. It has all these hard points for these things to be easily placed into them, and that was probably intended. The elite squadron pilots, they could have this stuff easily mounted onto it, and then the generic moot pilots, they get the generic one and they hardly have anything unless it's incredibly required for a specific mission. They just will have the base stuff on it. Pretty cool stuff. Um, that's also an awesome paint job. I would have a hard time picking between that one and the very first one, to be honest with you. And then you have all these decals. I'm not really. There's obviously not going to be any references outside of what just the decal itself is, which, is no big deal to me. And that's really dumb. Crimson Dawn, they clearly are not allied because Crimson Dawn is killing Imperials in the Han Solo movie, including a governor, and Darth Maul controls the Crimson Dawn. And they also clearly show that Darth Sidious hates Darth Maul and is having the Inquisitors hunting him down. So they cannot be aligned. It's just not possible. Okay, and then you have these things you can customize inside the cockpit with. A kill tally, which, is pretty cool. Special Forces pilot, which that is awesome. Commander Gideon Hask stands triumphantly at the testament of the power of loyalty to the Empire. He is an Imperial Navy commando that was in Star Wars Battlefront 2, and I absolutely love Imperial Navy commandos. They're my favorite special forces in Star Wars. So he definitely would be in this cockpit whenever I customize my cockpit. He's awesome. What else we got, Jack? Should I speed it up? Yeah, let's go ahead and speed it up. It's normal. Okay. TIE Fighter blueprint. Not that big of a deal. It's kind of cool, but I wouldn't want it over, having Husk or Husk. Blueprint readouts and diagrams keep every faithful Imperial pilot aware of what it takes to keep a TIE flying. Cool stuff, but not the coolest. Lord Vader, that's pretty cool too. Emperor's Enforcer was a truly gifted pilot. Strikes fear into your own heart when this always on. Wait, am I reading? No, I'm not reading this right. Truly gifted pilot. Strike fear into your own heart with this always on edgy. No, that can't be right. Effigy of the Emperor's most fearsome agent. Sorry, I read that wrong. I would take this over the blueprints, but not Hask, believe it or not. I just, like I said, I really love Imperial Navy Commandos. But Lord Vader, again, is pretty freaking awesome. Carbonite, no. Droid head, no. Metal of the Emperor's Fist, maybe. Hold on a second. Go back. Go back. That's kind of dumb. A droid head. Medal of the Emperor's Fist. A rare honor awarded to pilots enforcing and achieving peace in the most chaotic corners of the galaxy. I swear that medal might be in Star Wars TIE Fighter, so that might be a reference to the original Star Wars TIE Fighter. I would definitely pick that. Carbonized Minok, who gives a crap? Who gives a crap about droid heads? Medal of them. Okay, I guess he's just going over them over again. Again, I shouldn't complain since I don't have access to actually look at this stuff. Hound Skull. Don't really care. Lord Vader statuette. Never forget the commander of the 501st Legion, who served the Emperor better than anyone else. I still would take the Emperor's Fist medal. That is cool. Lucky Paw. Okay. Imperial ID badge. Crate Dragon Tooth. Okay, that's probably my favorite one out of all the ones on that side so far. Stormtrooper helmet. Why not a TIE Fighter pilot helmet? When flying among the stars, don't forget who else is enforcing the Emperor's will across the galaxy. Great, I guess. Crate Dragon's Tooth for me. Okay, so that's all the stuff that I'm gonna do in this video, which is, like I said, the Imperial stuff. And from what I have seen, I am extremely excited. I heard there will be a lot more stuff, and again, fingers crossed, purple stuff. I need the purple stuff, especially for Black Knight Squadron. This game looks great. It's going to be awesome. I love dogfighting, and I love all the customization that's in it. In general, yeah, there's some pieces I don't like, but there's some awesome pieces I do like, even if it happens to not be purple. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed all the stuff I pointed out. Wait a minute. There was one other thing. Don't forget the pre-order bonus. They have a lot of yellow marked stuff. Sorry, I don't have that on the page. But here he is. They have pre-order stuff with the yellow markings. I wanted to point out there is a couple things that could be referencing. It could be referencing that Defender 1 Squadron I mentioned before. It could also be referencing Yellow Squadron. Yellow Squadron was a squadron of TIE LN starfighters assigned to the Star Destroyer Imperial Doom, or Pending Doom, I should say, during the Galactic Civil War. They were deployed in an effort to stop the Alliance to restore the Republic's starships Worthless Fool from leaving the planet Narg. I can't believe that's the name of a ship, Worthless Fool. And then you have this Yellow Squadron, which was flying V-Wing starfighters for the Empire, but eventually it'll lead to this guy's squadron. And he's pretty dangerous. In the show, he's close to being like Baron Fell. It's just, in the very last episode, they make him suffer from plot-induced stupidity, and he does a bunch of stupid maneuvers and dies, unfortunately. Other than that, yeah, there's references to Yellow Squadron, and with all these colors, they gotta have a Purple Squadron. Come on, Black Knight Squadron, they gotta have it. Anyway, like I said before, I'm greatly, greatly impressed with all the stuff I've seen in this. Stuff I haven't mentioned yet because I think it probably requires a separate video. Um, I'm excited for this game. It's going to be incredibly awesome, and the customization in it overall is excellent. Even if there is a couple things I'm not impressed with, overall I am, and I'm going to completely dominate in this. I'll be the best pilot again in everything.